Welcome to We Think, We Talk, sponsored by Select Care Pharmacy, a pharmacy that is non-retail but that services the smallest of group homes to the largest of skilled nursing facilities, with prompt attention and care and world-class customer service. Welcome back to another episode of We Think, We Talk. I'm your host, Andy Garrison. We have a great show because I have a good buddy of mine, had not been on the show before, but I thought it was time, and he's the owner of Palmetto Precision Engineering, and we're going to start talking about today precision, calibration, things that are done in our industry, done in our world, but we just don't talk about it a whole lot. So I want to welcome Robbie Owens to the show.
Thank you, Andy.
Robbie, we go a little way back. Right before the camera started rolling, we were talking about everything. We grew up in a little town called Williamston. And we were telling stories. We got hours of stories.
Oh, yeah.
That we can tell because, at one time, a lot of our listeners and watchers, probably haven't visited Williamston. They really don't know much about it, but we went to the same high school.
Right.
Literally, all of our steps of life until after high school, we grew up together.
Yeah,
we grew up together. So we know the same people and everything. And it's funny how, kind of as the years go by, we look at everybody that we knew in really the directions everybody took and did in life. And me and you talk a lot on the phone, and we have, and I asked you to be on the show, and you're like, really? But I knew it was needed in time because to kind of to make it elementary of what you do, you deal with scales, weights, and precisions to that, calibrations, making sure everything's right for many different industries, and you're always on the road. Every time I call you, I'm in North Carolina, I'm here, but it's not really something that we think about in our day-to-day life, but if we didn't have it, we could either be, charged too much for something, get less product than we're supposed to get too much. Many things go haywire. Everything is based off precision these days.
Right.
So really, just tell me a little bit about, because I think I know a lot of the answer to this, but I don't want to speak for you.
Right.
What made you get into this line of work, about the precision engineering?
So when I graduated college, I went to work with a company that was a Motorola distributor.
Okay.
And it was a communications company. And within that communications company, we did most of everything we did was wireless, of course.
Right.
But once you learn it, you were there, and that was it. So being an engineer, I just couldn't settle. So I started looking. Well, I ran across a company that was family-owned, and the integration from mechanical weighing equipment to electronic weighing equipment was in full process there.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And, he found me, and he's like, oh, here's a college kid. He's in communications. He does electronics. Let's hire him. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, I have nothing to lose. All I can do is just broaden my knowledge. Mm-hmm. So when I went to work with a company, what I found was that every single aspect of life, everything you own, everything you touch, everything is weighed. Yes. You weighed when you're born, you weighed when you die. Mm-hmm.
I avoid that now.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. So because it was in every single industry, I didn't find myself trapped in a box anymore. Yeah. I found myself in a company that makes socks, a company that makes cars, a company that makes medicine. I was in every single industry. Period.
Literally.
Every industry. You go to the hospital and you check the scales at the hospital. Mm-hmm. You go to the mortuary, you check the scales at the mortuary. Mm-hmm. So I saw that as an opportunity to grow and learn other industries, thinking that I would put that under my belt. Mm-hmm. I would build a really good resume, and I would be the guy that would go get a job at a company that I knew what I wanted to do because I've seen all the jobs.
Yeah, right.
And so about 10 years in, I realized that I wasn't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. I was just going to stay where I was because the ability to work on a scale in a lab today, a manufacturing process tomorrow, a Costco the next day, I just thought that going to that same building every single day of my life would get boring.
Right.
So
I get it. And that's, some people, I've talked about this the other day, some people were born for different things. Some people love the outside so much that they want to get a career outside all the time doing something, whether it's building, whatever.
Right.
Some people find themselves wanting to use their mind intellectually and then take what currently, say, is a company. You said you're going basically from analog to digital, and you kind of see something happening. Like, I think I could move with that for a long time and help develop and make it better or do something like that. So there's people built for everything.
Right.
It's kind of the way I look at it. But you're right. I mean, you sort of chose a not a commonly taken trail, but yet everybody has to have it.
Right.
And would you say it's kind of like a dying art? I mean, people don't realize, because the reason I know that is because it's just not like you see a lot of vans running down the road going precision or calibration
Right.
or whatever. So you really got to know what you're doing.
So it's not necessarily a dying art,
Right.
but it's very, very, very expensive to get into. It's
Yeah.
not an industry that, that looks like a cool job, I'm going to do that.
Right.
Our certifications, our qualifications, our accreditations, there's so many things. It's so expensive to get into. But it's an art that's overlooked a lot. You
Yes.
know, I mean, you go to a grocery store, let's say Costco, that's one of our big customers. You go to a Costco and you look in back where they're wrapping meat, and you put the meat tray on the bottom, it comes out the top, it's weighed, it's wrapped, it's packaged, it's labeled, it goes
Right.
on the floor, right?
Right.
But what you're thinking about is how much is the meat?
Right.
Most people never think about what's the story behind that wrapper that's doing all of this.
Right.
We're
And-
the story.
And most
we're
people,
part of that story.
And most people, look at that price and go, and Costco, somebody that big, which Costco, if you're listening, I'm a fan. I love Costco.
Right.
I go into Costco and I can buy a bag of potatoes and a car.
Right.
I mean, it's the craziest thing ever. But especially in today's economy, the customer that sees the very end product of what you, Costco, or any other person that sells by weight or volume, whatever it may be, they're looking at that close, because if the calibration's off, they're paying more, and right now people don't have necessarily more to spend.
That's right.
So you go in with your job, I imagine there's a lot of integrity behind it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, a lot.
Because I understand that corporations want to make as much as they possibly can, but with your certifications and me just knowing you, and I think that goes back. I know you're gonna make sure if it says 1 ounce, it's dead on.
It's 1 ounce.
It's dead on. So just kind of go back to something fun on your job, because I was thinking about this last night. I was just wondering, you travel so much, and we won't talk about any specific, but have you ever came into an organization, whether it be a factory or something, and went to go calibrate and take a look, and they're just like so far off? You're costing yourself so much money because they're underway in or overweight in. I mean, just things of that nature.
I have seen that many times. There's a couple of times we ran across a scrap metal yard where you sell scrap metal.
Sure.
And you're weighing it on a floor scale. It's, the people at the scrapyard are doing everything right.
Right, sure.
And I'm thinking, this thing's not right because there's a piece of metal or something down between the scale and the frame. So you pick it up, you clean it, you look at it, you put it back, it's not right. You
Right.
pick it up, you do it again, you put it back, it's not right. So you start running electrical tests, is there parts failing? And then you just so happen to find a magnet that had fallen out of somebody's scrap metal, stuck on the bottom edge of the platform. So when the platform goes down, the magnet touches the frame. Completely innocent of anybody's
Right.
trying to do.
Yeah, no wrongdoing, just
But
there.
chased it for hours.
Oh, yeah.
Because like every electronic part's good. Okay, everything's good and nothing works.
Right.
And you just keep chasing it.
Right. No, so you have more patience than I have, because one thing about myself is about 5 minutes into a problem, and if I can't quite figure it out, I lose it. I'm just like, and I think I've always been this way though, right? I've never been a
Right.
real patient person.
That's right.
I'm just an older person now, so I have to be patient because I don't move as fast. But at the end of the day, I am not I'm not an engineer type guy. Like, if I start working on a car, chances are it's cost me more money because now somebody else has got to put back together what I've done. So, people like yourself that have mastered the ability of patience and the expertise of what you do, willing
Right.
to continue till you find that little magnet, or till you find what's going on, because, I'm sure you have 1,000 stories.
Oh, yeah.
To where after somebody retained your services, and you got, some big contracts, big name people. We've talked about a few.
Right.
I won't throw them on here because they're not a sponsor.
Right.
But I'm sure you've had people come back to you, CFOs of the company, and you saved them a lot of money after you got done calibrating all of their instruments.
Yeah, we have. We actually have gotten plaques, awards, recognitions from companies that have fought and battled issues that they couldn't find because everybody overlooks the obvious, which is the weight. When you go to a store and you think you're going to buy a pair of blue jeans, right?
Right.
And there's a certain color you like. Nobody ever thinks that it's one of my systems that mixes the dyes that makes that color the same every single time.
Right.
And you walk into a facility when they call you and they're in a frantic because everything's failing in the quality lab. Right. Nothing is the right color.
Right.
And, we come in and we find something so obvious but so overlooked, as simple as the dyes are mixing wrong because you haven't had your equipment serviced properly.
See, I find that just interesting because, as you know, and a lot of folks that watch this show will have no clue about this. I don't think I've ever gone real far back in my past. But when I was in high school, I worked mini shift at a local mill in our town. I liked it. I enjoyed it, but we dealt with cloth. And there were many people there that I would hear these discussions about, the color of the material. We doffed cloth there. And for people that don't know what that is, that's a job.
It is a job.
If somebody in the creel, which is where all the cloth spools are, if it runs out, that person gets upset. They're just all kind of, if you had an experience, I was thinking about it the other night, and those ladies in there taught me so much because they were so good that some of the packs of yarn and cloth running down this creel to make a big spool.
Beam.
Yeah, beam. A beam, exactly. Yeah, beam. They could see offset of a color that my eye couldn't catch because somebody did not put the proper amount of dye in that particular process of dyeing the cloth, and they would know it, and that'd ruin a beam too. And some of those beams were 40, 50, 60, or even more thousands of dollars. So, the particular people in the plant that I worked at the time, they weren't happy if something like that were to happen. Like you'd look at a beam, and it'd be perfect, and all of a sudden one weird color
That's right.
in the center. So precision is everything.
That's right.
One of the biggest reasons I'm glad you're on the show today is because now you're branching forward into an industry that I know very well, but is now going to be needed even more so because there's certain regulations going down the line and things coming up that a lot of our listeners are just now learning about
Right.
as this comes out. But it's in the medical world. And calibration in our world is everything. As you know, let's talk about like even pharmacy.
Right.
You're even going into this world. Precision in measuring medications, it can mean everything.
Right.
I teach classes all the time. A lot of our clients, the state requires long-term health care facilities and other facilities such as this to have their med techs, and those are the guys that actually pass out the medications and all to be certified, and I go do those classes for them. But even more so than that, if you walk through a non-retail pharmacy, which produces mass amounts of medication for a long-term care, they distribute them daily.
Right.
And compound pharmacies. They have scales, and they're not as large as some of the ones in the factories, but they have to be just as precise. And not to cut on manufacturers of some of these scales, but going on Amazon and buying a $5.99 scale and putting a couple of AA batteries in it isn't going to give you the precision that we're talking about.
Absolutely not.
So it leads me kind of to I guess maybe an engineering question, but it's not that deep. But when making a scale, kind of putting it together, and you don't have to go through each one because I know there's just a lot.
Right.
But over the years, have you found certain manufacturers of scales that you prefer more than others that look, I can find what's going on with it. They calibrate easy, and they come pretty calibrated when you get them. So, you trust it. Is that something you find? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's, we're a distributor for Rice Lake Corporation.
Okay.
Rice Lake also sells OHAS, which
Okay.
is some of the top of the line. It's about the person. A lot of times, the scale's only half of it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
about the person that's keeping it accurate. The person you can call at 2 a.m. or whatever time of day.
Right.
On a Sunday. It's about the phone call you can make to where the guy's on his way.
Right.
It's
So you still that guy from back in the day?
we're still that guy. We're still that company.
Well, in fairness, when we were 16, I could call you at 2:00 in the morning. You're like, where you want to meet?
I know,
Yeah.
right?
So it's just, but see, yeah, I've learned that, sort of as we got older, not to say that we're super old, but we have got older.
Yeah, we are.
But what I find is with people that I know that now do really important things, that keep the world running. And if I know them very well, I look back at their habits when I knew them years ago, and their habits really did push into their professional world. And I think that's a cool thing because people that had those habits, like I mentioned, you did. I mean, literally, I'm sure there were calls at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
When you see those good habits and those loyal habits, I don't think people change. I don't think people change their habits. And if it goes into their professional world and it's habits that are that good, it's going to be successful. You're going to do well. But we also know some people that have tried their venture into professional world, but their habits were horrible.
And it went horribly.
And it went horrible.
That's right.
So I had a mutual friend of ours. I won't say who it is, but they had called me. This is about 7 or 8 years ago, and they were going into what I would have considered a very lucrative, professional, needed business, but also knew this person's habits, and they asked my advice. And the advice that I gave them, it seemed pretty cruel, but it was true. I said, that is a great idea, and I think that should be explored, but I think you should hire somebody to run this for you. They're like, why? I said, because your habits that you've had forever are horrible. You're not going to be willing to get up at 4:30 in the morning to be somewhere by 6 or 2 a.m. to be somewhere.
Right.
And that's not something that you can be taught.
No, you either have it or you don't.
And, I know your family well. Your dad's the same guy. I mean, 2:00 in the morning, well, we got to go.
That's right.
And I think you get that from him, and I know your children will get that from you. So I hope that's something that we can continue to pass down. But did you ever think, I've never asked you this, though, before, so I'm just curious. When you were 15, 16 years old, what did you think you'd be doing now?
I really had my eyes on a chief's position, probably in a department somewhere in the fire service.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I know you love that.
the lead on an arson team.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down those roads
Right.
and had a lot of fun.
You did. You did.
But if it wasn't that, I knew I would be running a company because I was determined, but I never thought it would be my company.
Right.
I thought I would be the guy that got a paycheck, went home on Friday, and it was over. I never thought I'd be the guy running a company that works the hours I work, the days I work.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you bring that up because a lot of people that will be watching this, it spans. We have folks that are in college right now, coming out of school. We have folks that have just graduated college, just graduated high school. We have folks that have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. But they're watching that, and a lot of these guys don't own their own company yet. So, they learn from hearing these stories. Were you scared?
I was absolutely horrified. A little bit of backstory.
Yeah.
So in this industry, I spent over 20 years with the other company.
Yeah.
And I found myself jobless one day.
Right.
And when I found myself jobless, it was like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to pick up the phone, and all these contacts I've made in these facilities, I'm going to start making phone calls because I know I can get a job because I know all of these people.
Right. Right.
And then you go to bed at night, you're scared to death. You got kids, you got a wife, you got a house payment, and you realize that you know what to do. It's what you've done for the last 20 years.
Right.
It's who you are. It's become such a part of you. So you start trying to travel down the road. How do we make it work?
And, a lot of people need to hear that because I think that the perception that a lot of people see when someone owns their own successful business. They see just that. They don't know the backstory, like you just gave. They don't know the hours, tears, blood, sweat, work that you put into it. And I think they almost feel like that we're superhuman in some way, like we're different than they are. But in the reality, we're not.
We're not.
We have the exact same problems, the exact same fears. I know for a long time myself, having kids, wife, going through the routine, making sure everybody had everything. If somebody pulled the plug out from a job, I'd be crushed. I mean, scared to death.
I was.
and we at the moment, we don't show that because we want to keep everybody else in our life, our immediate life, our kids, wife, etc., calm. We're going to be okay. We'll figure it out. But inside, I think we're just crushed. We are just literally, walking around like that. But sometimes that can be the biggest blessing in the world to find yourself jobless because it creates another a strength, but a strength that you have inside you. Then you realize you had it inside you the whole time.
Right.
But all of a sudden now you have to engage it, and then things change.
Right.
You work harder than you probably have ever worked before.
I work longer hours than I've ever worked.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a great team of guys that work behind me. They'll work beside me.
I know a few of them.
Yeah. It's kind of ironic, ain't it?
Well, and you know what? And I can say this, and just so I can get it on record, one in particular of your employees, I trust with my life.
Yeah.
And that lets me know that you got that kind of team, then everybody has that integrity.
That's
Everybody
right.
has that. I mean, literally, if you can trust a person, that's a big statement.
That's
If
right.
you can trust somebody with your life, but that's the person that's going out representing your company, helps you sleep a little better at night.
It does. The downside of it is a company like mine that I built. We didn't inherit it.
Oh, no.
We didn't buy it out. No. I built it. So when you start talking about hiring somebody, see how many applicants you can find that fit the bill. And it's tough. It's tough to hire because I'm not hiring somebody to do a job. I'm hiring a person. I'm hiring a family member. I'm hiring somebody that I trust with my life.
Right. Well, they're representing something that took all that
Everything.
You had.
Yes.
I mean, you put everything on the line.
Everything.
And that's a lot.
And as over the years, me and Debbie have had conversations where I've sat down and I've talked to her and said, I think we're going to buy this. I think this is our next step. And Debbie says, I don't know about that. I don't think now's a good time. So I picked it up the next day because you have to put it on the line. If you're not willing to sacrifice it and put it on the line, it'll never grow.
Look, here's this funny you say that because you actually had a conversation with Debbie, and I know Debbie's your wife.
Yeah.
And I'm not real sure my wife, Lori, knows what I do for a living. Like, I literally, the other night I was talking with her, but I think I may have done that too as a protective mode through these years, just in case. Because, you know me, I got my hands in kind of everywhere, which makes me feel a little bit more comfortable.
Right.
Because, there's many different avenues that I feel comfortable going down. But I really don't discuss with her because I don't think she wants to know. I think she finds it boring,
Right.
like what I do. But yet I think she enjoys the spoils of what I do.
Right.
But now the boys, I have two boys, as you know them.
Right.
They've been with me every step of the way, kind of very much like Ty's,
Right.
your son. So I think it's kind of a natural. I think in your hope, and I don't know what your son wants to do, when he gets older, but you've created a platform. So if he wanted to come that direction, there's something he can come to.
He's part of my retirement plan.
He's sitting off camera. He doesn't know that yet, but you send Daddy 75%, you keep the other 25%, and then we'll talk later.
And then he can work 20-hour days and 7 days a week.
You know what I find interesting though, a lot of people that I talk to and we know, I have to work 20-hour days. I mean, me and you both worked 24-hour days before. I've literally worked a whole day and kept going and never made it to the house. And multiple times. The boys, my boys will tell you, that they were so used to it from when they were little. They had seen it of me just jumping up at crazy times of the night or whatever and just leaving, but it didn't bother them because they understood to a point that's what Dad does.
That's what it takes.
Some people that may be jealous of success or want to do these things aren't willing to put in more than that 6 or 8 hours a day to do
Right.
it. And even if your company becomes more successful, doesn't mean your hours go down.
No.
Because I can't remember who said it. It was years back, but you want to be in every aspect of it. You want to sign every check.
That's right.
You want to know money coming in, money going out. And I don't think you could. I think if you brought somebody in to kind of run your day to day, I don't think you could do it.
I couldn't. I would be. I would just go insane. You'd have to put me in an asylum somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have to be a part of everything. I think it gets on people's nerves.
But what's funny though, Andy, is from the outside looking in, people don't see that. From the outside looking in, and Tice can justify this too. It's like the truck I drive.
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, you
Yeah.
know, beautiful truck,
Right.
big truck,
Right.
got a bed cover on the back.
Right.
It's a work truck.
It's a work truck.
You roll that bed cover up, it don't matter what your truck looks like on the outside. It's a
Right.
work truck.
Right. Well, another interesting factor that I'll throw into you that you do, and I think you enjoy doing this because, and we're certainly not promoting this, but I want to bring this up because you've got me out of some sticky situations, we'll call it that. You also have owned a trophy company,
Right.
which is cool because that's not seen much anymore. But you've always, have made sure that, especially recognition, and trophies like that, and
Right.
everything. And I've called you through the years many times just for that.
Right.
And sometimes you made me trophies, and I don't even know if you still had the trophy company, but you figured out a way to,
Right.
make it happen. But so 'cause you've always been a people's person, to do whatever it took. But I'm glad to see it grow, and I think you genuinely enjoy what you do.
I do.
And you probably have met a lot of great people doing what you do. Because, I imagine you go into all these certain plants and different places you go. You're on a first-name basis with a lot of people.
Right.
But kind of moving forward a little bit, we'll get back into history because there's just a lot of funny stories. But, with the medical world coming in and the rules and regulations and changes that are being made by that every day, that's what I keep up with. And it's just amazing. A lot of people think that the tax code is, big every year.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with medical. Medical just will far surpass that every day of the week. But once again, your services now are very much needed into that area. And that's kind of what we're introducing you to the public to let them know that, you can handle this too.
Right.
And it's time. I don't want to see companies, pharmaceutical companies and assisted livings and skilled nursing facilities and hospitals and things like that, just accidentally miss the best person I know to give them the customer service that they want, that they expect, the expertise, and the knowledge. Because, a lot of times you can come in and set this up perfectly for them. Let's say a drug scale where somebody's weighing something and it's milligrams.
Right.
It's just lightweight stuff. But not only are you going to set it up, make sure it's calibrated, you're going to educate.
Exactly.
And you brought it up a while ago in regards to how it's kind of changed from where it was manual
Right.
to now, computer driven. If you don't give the proper training, you can easily mess those things up because, there are I still remember this from college. King Henry died Monday drinking chocolate milk. You remember that?
Right.
You need to, somebody can weigh something. It's kind of like giving insulin. Insulin is given by units. But let's say somebody grabbed the wrong syringe. Well, a unit is not the exact same thing as, say, like a B12 shot would be, that syringe.
Right.
You give that amount and you think you're measuring the right amount, 1 and 1 doesn't equal the same thing.
That's
and
right.
you can kill someone. If someone uses scales improperly and measures medication or narrow therapeutic index medications, which means they have to be perfect, wrong, the same effect can happen. So
Absolutely.
that's what comes with the education part of it.
Absolutely.
With the new technology coming with the scales, how often do you find yourself, about every time that you install something, to gather everybody and educate and make sure they have the proficiency in it?
We do that. If I come into your facility today, you become part of our family today.
Right.
When I walk away from there, I feel like that I've left absolutely everything I can leave on the table.
Right.
All my knowledge, all the skills, my phone number.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. I guarantee your phone number's left there.
There's a sticker on everything with our phone number. And we also, being a ISO 17025 accredited company, so we have huge standards that we have to maintain.
Right.
That scale's certified. It's got that certificate with it. We can tie it to the computer. We can add checks and balances. We can we can make it do things that are far beyond just weighing something.
That's interesting. That's interesting. This is probably too much information, but it was months ago. I have to ask the boys, but we were going through how weight measurement, how over the years, we're talking about over the last 300 years, they used a Queen standard, and then they used a international standard.
That's right.
And they go through all this, and some of the original weights that were to say, okay, this is 1 pound. Those are still stored in museum and archives to be the official 1 pound weight.
Right.
So I kind of find that interesting that we go back hundreds, if not thousands of years where weight has been the daily part of our life. I'm on the road all the time, and I find this interesting, and you probably know way more about this, but the transfer trucks at the weigh stations, those have to be calibrated.
They do.
And, you get somebody off a pound or two, they can be pulled aside and shut down for a little while.
Absolutely.
So that's an industry by itself, and I wonder how many weight stations there are in the United States.
I probably could have told you if you hadn't asked.
If I would have sent you that question, but
we talk about integrating things into computers. We do tractor trailer scales too. We
sure.
do from milligrams and smaller to tons.
Right.
Railroad scales. There's scales on the railroad.
Okay.
But one of the things where our industry has integrated into the tractor trailer scale world is, we can weigh a tractor trailer scale now at 60 miles an hour.
That is awesome.
And so when you coming into Townville and you see the trucks bear off, you'll see 2 signs over the weigh station.
Right.
One points it back on the highway. One points it to a static scale or a truck scale.
Right.
Every one of those scales is weighed. Every one of the trucks is weighed.
Right.
We can weigh it. We can get its axle space and shift, height, weight at 60 miles an hour and make a decision within a second and send it back out on the highway.
That's freaky, isn't it?
So
but you think about it, it's necessary.
It is.
But you don't have the backup anymore. It keeps from congestion. I imagine that's what it's from.
Which is a huge safety issue.
See, and you went into something that's way far. That's beyond my pay scale.
Right.
I always thought when I'd pull into like the QT or something, they'd see the scale over there that they can use. I guess to make sure.
Right.
I always laugh at that. Because I always just want to take my personal car and just roll up on it.
Right.
But that was back in the day.
Paid away.
Well, no, back in the day, I wouldn't have paid to weigh. Back in the day, I'd have been like, please work. Oh, it's not going to work. But like I said at the beginning of the show, this is just a subject that you haven't seen a lot of people sit and talk a lot, but I can guarantee you there's not a person that's lived that hasn't used some form of this or not. So I'm excited to see you branching a little further into your business because, obviously at the end of the day, we want to make sure people are healthy and happy.
Right.
And that starts, whether it be from the making of the medication, all the way to giving the medication.
Right. The proper amount for the weight of the person, the proper dosages.
Well, and even deeper than that, I was talking to a good friend of mine that is all about surgical equipment. And, everything from the initial blades to everything that you'll find in a surgical pack. And there's a large company, ads have been coming up like crazy for this company, but they do nothing but make surgical packs. But what people don't realize about these instruments, this isn't your kitchen butter knife.
That's right.
This has to be made usually stainless steel, precision cut, diamond sharpened, but they have to be weighed.
That's right.
and there's not a variance allowed because it's held a certain way. They know, physicians and surgeons are trained how much pressure to put because, you can only go so deep. So everything has to weigh the same.
That's right.
That comes into your world. So there's so many more opportunities for your company in the medical world. And I think with your years of experience and your love for it and the knowledge behind it and willing to, make adjustments for these companies, at the end of the day, they're going to really come out as a stronger company.
Absolutely.
Knowing that the product they're selling is top of the line. Because probably just like scales or just like you having to service, you get what you pay for.
You do. And then, you got to consider the waste, if you weigh it wrong, if it's wrong, the waste. We're not talking about pennies. When you're talking about medication, you're talking about money.
Well, I'll tell you a story. You may know this person, and I haven't talked to this person in years, but I don't think they'd mind me. Remember Ronnie Cobb?
I remember the name, yeah.
Ronnie Cobb was my boss when I was 16, and I was working at the mill. And my job with Nick Jackson, Nick, Bhavesh Patel, and Money Jones. That's who I worked with. We used to take hooks, and we had the sky pulley lifts. And I forget what these beams weighed, but some of these beams were thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And I've told hilarious stories, but it wasn't hilarious. But, we'd pick these up, and the hooks would go at the end, and we'd pull them up, and you'd literally walk them across the plant, and they'd be above you. But at the same time, it would be weighing it. It'd be putting a lot of information in the computer that we never knew that we were doing because we thought we were just hooking them and moving with them. 'Cause we were 16 years old.
Right.
We were doing this. But I've also saw them click off and hit the ground and bust in a million pieces. And Ronnie would come running out. And for some reason, Ronnie was supposed to work, during the day. But he'd hang out, during mini shifts. Sometimes he'd hang out third shift because summertime, we didn't have school. So somebody would always call in.
Right.
We were working mini shift, and I was just sitting there thinking, oh, I'll take it. I'll take the money.
Just stay over.
Oh, absolutely. Because, I didn't have anything else to do. It's not like, the town we grew up in was popping all the time, which I want to talk about in a minute. But, but even when a situation came wrong, we had weighed something out at the forklift dock. And you know what I'm familiar with. You pull that handle, they come up. And one of the scales, we had weighed something, and they marked it on the paper on the outside. Well, 3 or 4 days later, I saw it returned. Well, wherever it was distributed to, it was underweight or over whatever.
Right.
The problem was they refused
to receive it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that cost $30,000. And we had no other customer that used that particular yarn, so it was a waste. Because you couldn't reconnect to it and make it right.
Right, it's gone.
It was gone. And that happened so many times because of something not being precisionally calibrated, not even hooked up correctly.
That's right.
That happens a couple of times. A company is going to lose. They possibly could lose their company. Because you got small companies doing the same thing large companies are doing, but 30,000 may not sound a lot to a multi-billion-dollar company, but to a family-run company, that's a matter of staying in business or not.
Yep.
And the fact about your company that I like, anybody I talk to that knows you and knows your company, you treat mom and pop the same as you will a multi-billion-dollar company.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where the advantage comes because everybody has the opportunity to succeed, especially in that arena if you're making it where they're in an industry of where weight truly, truly matters. Do you give yourself, when you're calibrating something, do you give yourself it's good plus or minus so much?
There's a tolerance, a factory tolerance on everything.
Right.
But if we're calibrating it, we're not calibrating it to a tolerance. We're calibrating it to the 17025 standard.
Right.
If I put a gram on it when I walk away, it's a gram.
That's good.
If it's not a gram, then we miss something, you start over.
Wow.
The tolerances are there for you, not
Right.
for me.
Right. Over the years, were you calibrating something? Not to interrupt you. How quickly do you think you can go into a machine now and calibrate one?
I don't have, I keep a tablet on my truck now in case I need some directions.
In case. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I can basically throw my tools on a cart, throw my weights on a cart, walk in. Uh, you could be in the middle of production weighing something. You finish that, give me 3 minutes, and I can calibrate. But we also, that's not a one and done thing.
No.
We calibrate it. You run your next process. We step back in. We'll retest it.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's never just that says whatever and walk away.
No, get that totally. And another thing I was thinking, it has, I imagine the complexities of some of your larger, weighing scales. Obviously they have moving parts, they have internal components.
Right.
Just like anything, eventually those have to be replaced. And you probably can tell if something goes off quickly. It's a
can.
gram today, and then 30 minutes later it's not.
That's
You
right.
probably now know I need to start digging deeper.
That's
looking,
right.
Looking deeper.
I've done it long enough now where if you call me and say, Rob, this is what it's doing, I put the parts on the truck before I ever leave the shop. I know what's wrong. I know what's broke.
Right.
Because I've done it. That's half of my life. This is what I've done.
Right. And I just find it interesting because I can't help but just listening, and knowing what you do, but also going back many years when we were young. Our brains weren't collaborative brains. I don't know that we thought that deep about stuff,
No.
but yet at the same time, it was somehow always in there.
How do we make it faster? That was our teenage years.
Yeah. No, okay. So, in all honesty, to let everybody know, we rode a lot of motorcycles, a lot. I'd hate to see how many miles. I was curious about that the night thinking about, because when I knew, or last night rather, when I knew, you were going to the show today, I just wonder if there's no way to know, but I'd love to know the amount of miles we rode on motorcycles, just, I don't know, trying to figure out the world.
That's right.
But going back, just it has nothing to do with this, but just your thought on there, because like I said, we're from the same town and we've watched that, and it's Williamston. Williamston's, it's a good town. There's a lot of people and all, but I know, Williamston when we were growing up, it was moving, a lot of things to do, and I see a lot of improvement happening in Williamston, right now. My mom still lives in Williamston. But when you look at Williamston, what do you see? You see potential there? Do you see, because I say this for industry, I say this for people watching,
Right.
because it's a good place for people to raise a family. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, you're really 4 hours from the mountains. You're 4 hours, or not even 4 hours from the mountains. 4 hours from the beach. I mean, it's centrally located in a really good place, right off the interstate. Everything happening, but you think that the younger generation moving in, what do you think would make that more appealing for them? Because I feel like they're missing not moving.
They're
in
missing
there.
a lot.
They really are.
So
Blue
there's-
River, we go fishing.
So we've got the river, we've got the parks, we've got the personal aspect of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a little bit of big business kind of moving into Williamston. Some bigger name food places. There's still small businesses where you walk in, and when you walk in, there's the owner.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's a lot of small shops. When I made my last transition into my big shop, I could have moved that shop anywhere. We cover multiple states.
So that's why I'm bringing that up, because you have chose to keep your business in Williamston,
I chose to keep it in Williamston,
which is pretty awesome.
I'm not in the city. I'm over next to the interstate. But you can be there. I can go have the personal feel. I can get in the truck, be on Interstate 85 in less than a minute. I can go to Asheville. I can go to Charlotte. I can go to Atlanta. I can go to Columbia. Williamston is just right in the middle.
What's funny is, this is true. This is a true story. So for 10 years, I moved out of Williamston. And really for my job, it was more convenient. I moved to Spartanburg. But do you know, now everybody will laugh because there's not a lot here, I would still drive that hour and 15, 20 minutes back in to get a haircut at the person that's cut my hair since day one in Williamston. And there's something about it I just would not, I couldn't change it.
It's personal.
It was very personal. You get your hair cut at Jack's?
Well, I used to,
Yeah.
but I'm on the road so much now.
Right. Yeah.
I usually get my hair cut when it's time to get the gray cut out of it. And it's when I reach that point, it's wherever who can get the gray out of my head.
Right. Now, see, I've done that before. I have been really far away and realized, okay, I got a meeting tomorrow or something.
Right.
And with this type hair happening, you get these edge looks that look like almost it could go to a mullet with nothing.
Right.
So yeah, I've had to do that. But when I had the ability, when I knew I could add it into my schedule, because you got to figure that's almost 3 hours worth of driving just to get it done.
Just to get a haircut.
But I'd still go and just get a haircut there.
Yeah.
And I'd drive away feeling, I don't know, good,
Right.
happy because, everybody, you talk to everybody from the area, nobody cuts it like he does.
That's right.
You know.
Well, the thing is, nobody does, but the thing that hurts me is me and him, our hours are too close to the same.
No,
and I'm
absolutely.
out servicing my customers like he's servicing his. And,
Well, and two, he's done this so long,
right.
because I think I had my first legitimately pictures, if you were to go through a baby album. I think my first haircut was in his shop with him and Evelyn basically holding me down. But, now he's starting to take, his hours have started to reduce. I know he's closed on Saturdays.
Right.
Wednesdays, I think he's closed. I'm almost certain. So, it's you got to be either that morning person to get there early or be able to not work past 5.
Right.
And that's real hard in what we do because sometimes 5 o'clock things are just getting started.
Right.
So we go from there. But no, it's always good to see because we haven't had high school reunions.
No.
I don't know what that's about.
We're failing ourselves.
No, and I publicly throw that out there because
Yeah.
I'm not saying the person, but I think it's the class president's job, right?
Somebody's supposed to do that.
Somebody's supposed to do that. I know it's not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
I wasn't
it's not
class
me.
president. People hardly knew I existed. But the reality of it is, it's been, other than having social media, which I don't believe half of what I see, we haven't really had an opportunity to get with a lot of people, and even kind of see what they do now, or, and that would be awesome because, business really does start with communities supporting each other.
That's right. And connections, friends.
And friends, connections, and then it grows from there. And I would love to see a lot of our friends, a lot of our group of people get together and, kind of just where are they now type thing. Because I think we'd see some interesting stuff. But unfortunately, the career path that I took, and as busy as you are, I other than looking at social media, I've lost contact with a lot of folks. But maybe somebody will hear this from Palmetto High School.
94.
Yeah, in 95. You see, now we did show our age. You did that on camera. See, I didn't even bring that up. But no, I would just like to see. I really would. It could be a quick thing, but I do kind of miss that. I don't live in the past though. I'm not one of you got those people going. Remember when I was in high school, I almost made pro. Oh, that's great. What are you doing now? Nothing. That kind of always, I couldn't live in the past.
No.
I enjoyed it, but I'm always looking for tomorrow. I realize that there's something much further or further beyond me.
Right.
I know whatever I do now, it's not so much for myself, it's for my kids or my family. I just want them to, like everybody says this, to do better than I did.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that they can, just because I'm not going to say our kids are smarter than we are, but they are when it comes to technology and what they grew up with that we had to learn.
That's right.
They had to learn it, but they didn't realize they were learning it. Kind of like the VCR. You remember our parents used to hand us the remote to program?
That's right.
Because they weren't going to attempt it. Well, our kids grew up on stuff that right now is complex to us.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I was thinking just the other day, me and Tyson and Ashley and Mackenzie, we were all on a boat celebrating their birthday.
Right.
And I was thinking, when I watched them on the tube,
Right.
I was thinking, if I could be it, I wish I could be there, as a teenager. But then I got to thinking, compared to them, I'd be the dumbest teenager on the boat.
Oh.
compared to what they know and how quick they process and what they do now.
Yeah.
If I was me at 16 or 17 on there with them, I would be the feel sorry for because he's not a smart friend.
Oh, I'd be
That
the
would be
least
me.
smart friend on
That'd
the
be
bus.
me.
Like even now, and I'm so glad that I have them because, like, let's say I got to put a PowerPoint or something of that nature for a presentation, and those are some complex presentations or classes or whatever. I go straight to them and I give them the content, and they put it together. Like I didn't even realize this is crazy. We're talking about less than a year ago. This was a large presentation I had to do. I didn't even realize with my remote clicker for the computer, for the PowerPoint presentation, float ins,
Oh yeah.
stuff. I knew that I'd seen it happen, but I would have had to do a whole, I don't know, a YouTube video or
Take
a
a
DIY.
class, yeah.
Yeah. And they come in there, okay, just tell us what you want. We'll float this in. Now just remember this, Dad. Every time you hit this, it's going to float in. So don't do it too early or you'll give it away.
Right.
Things like that. So I just know that their world is going to be awesome because technology's got that advanced, and
Right.
and with that advancing, the age of our life expectancy is already starting to increase,
Starting to increase.
which is cool but scary to me because I want to live a long time, but I want to have a quality of life behind it.
Right.
So
I don't want to just live.
Right.
Right.
Right. Like, don't put me in a box in a chair, because
Right.
I've seen many episodes of TV that I want to see. I want to be able to enjoy it, but hopefully, because I had a guest, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, Trey Whitehurst. He's awesome. If you get a chance, watch that episode though. But we were talking about the Neuralink, by Elon Musk. I don't know if you saw this technology, but basically it goes into your brain. It can change everything. I mean, I won't even get into that, but it's incredible. But once again, it's technology. So how much of your year would you say that you actually are reading about technology, what's coming and what's doing, and trying to stay atop of it? Because it seems like this would change a lot.
It does change a lot, and it's really funny you ask that because let's just go back to the name of our company.
Yes.
Like Palmetto Precision Engineering.
Right.
Okay, I'm an engineer.
Yes.
I've got the engineering mindset.
Right.
We're always looking at the next step, the next level, the next integration. You probably never think about the next line of communication,
No.
but we do.
No.
We went from RS-232 wired communication to
Right.
Bluetooth.
Right.
Now we've taken our customers to where they're holding a tablet, and when they hit a button, everything is populated in their tablet for them, and they're not hooked together. They can walk around, right? So I had to follow those trends. I study those trends, and they are kind of specific to our industry, but I can't stay on the specifics of our industry because what I want to do is bring the next trend into our industry. I've done that with some of the local, very large vitamin companies. Like I designed and built their whole QC machine. They pour a box of pills in the top, and we're QCing every pill, and it puts them a printout at the bottom.
That's cool.
We've taken that aspect of miscounting or misweighing or
And just to think, a few years ago, there was a person actually having to
actually doing it.
counting it.
We took it another level when you talk about the technology. So the other level we went to is, you ever think about 3D printers and CNC machines and lasers? I still own the laser company.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, if we need a part and we don't have it, we can't find it, we build it.
See, I think that's cool because you've created so many companies for yourself that it seems like, if something comes up a wall, you've got something to fix it.
We just walk around to the next office and
Go to the next office and create.
let's redesign it, and let's make it work.
Right. And, if you design it one time, you're going to use it 100 times because you've probably designed it toward that whatever.
Right.
And the laser things now, see, the laser things are very cool because I like to look at the laser as whether it be a beam going into particles. We had a whole show about this, and it's amazing because it's still going to do the same thing regardless of how you try to manipulate it.
Right.
And you think about that in your industry, so that's true.
It is true.
If the laser guided, because you can measure with laser. I mean, it does so many things that's going to give you the most accurate reading that you're ever going to get because it's super hard to manipulate that.
That's right.
You can manipulate most everything else, but if it turns on,
That's right.
you're done.
If you hit the focal point, it's there.
Right.
And we're adding plasma to our shop this year. So I'm really interested to play with that because I'm so used to lasers and the precision of the lasers.
I'm gonna have to come by and mess with some of those.
I'm not sure how the
Just to
plasma
see.
thing's going to do.
Yeah, no, I won't mess with that because
But,
I know what plasma can do. Plasma will cut our studio down.
Right.
That's a crazy thing.
But as a company, we are very specific with weights measures. We do temperature, we do pressure, we can do blood pressure cuffs. We can go across the board. We can do it all.
See, and that's why I just think it's so very important because you're going into a bigger level, into the medical level, but yet at the same time, it's really not that new of territory to you.
No.
And that's why it would be really good and beneficial for a lot of folks because if you got to take the time to step back and learn something, time is money.
That's right.
But yet, you're already familiar with concepts of all that. A lot of people still don't even realize that a lot of measuring devices are mercury-based still, because we can count on it. We know
Right.
it hasn't changed what it does over centuries.
Right.
But at the same time, deeper into it, from the engineering mindset. Well, maybe I can use this for this, and all of a sudden it's still accurate.
Right. Maybe we can add one more decimal place.
So here's an interesting question, I guess, because I always say this in reference to if I was a auto detailer, I'd have the dirtiest car in the house. Your personal life, are you that precise OCD guy, or do you relax it there? Or do you just have to run it 24/7? Like,
If it wasn't for Debbie, I probably wouldn't even have furniture in my house.
Gotcha.
I would just be at the office because there's always something to do. The technology changes so fast. The pace is so fast. She's the one that holds all that together. By the time I get home,
Yeah.
basically where I said is at least where I'm going to fall asleep.
Okay. So what do you do? So what do you do for fun? What do you do for Robbie? What's your enjoyment
That
we can talk about?
That's a really, really good question.
Yeah, because and the reason I asked that is because I asked this question a lot of times, and I think the answer is you don't know.
My enjoyment is through other people's enjoyment. How about that?
Now I get that.
But-
Now, one thing I can tell you do enjoy though, just from our conversations, you definitely enjoy your children.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's that. I think that is your.
I get it through them. That's
Yeah.
the enjoyment.
Yeah, I do too. I don't look for like self gratification much anymore.
Right.
But whenever my boys get excited about something,
It excites me.
yeah, me too.
And I'm that same guy. That's who I am. I'm the guy that wears the same uniform my guys wear.
Yeah.
And when they go out on the road, at 8:30 every morning. Well,
Yeah.
my first meeting starts on a customer site at 7 every morning.
Yeah,
And,
I called one of your guys the other day.
So-
He was in North Carolina, and just to mess with him, he's like, I'm in North Carolina.
That's right. I'm
But-
working.
Yeah, I'm working, but I just had to aggravate him and everything because I actually called him first before I called you, and I said, look, I may need your reinforcement on this one
Yeah.
because I may not be able to get him because I know you're hard to get because you are busy a lot, but at the same time I'm proud of you. I really am. Me knowing you all my life,
Right.
and to see you doing something that's awesome and still looking for, to continue to grow, continue to do. To be honest with you, like I said, we're not that old, but I know a lot of people our age, they're slowing down. They're won't
Or still hadn't even started.
that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
They truly just have not started, which
Yeah.
that is scary a little bit. Another thing, did you notice this? Got nothing to do with it, but a lot of the teachers that you and I had in high school, I was just looking on social media the other week because this is graduation week, or last couple of weeks have been. A lot of them are retiring.
Yeah.
Most are gone.
Yes.
I thought to myself, well, and what would some of those high school teachers that you and I had together, probably say now because they wasn't expecting much.
They
They're talk. Y'all be quiet. That's what they
Yeah.
expected. They're
Yeah.
gonna talk for a living.
Which
I won, by the way. So if the teacher is watching, hey,
I think they were expecting us to show up the next morning because that's where all our friends were.
Well, I had one
that's
teacher.
basically their expectation.
Well, two things happened good that you know about. That's interesting. I had one teacher that ended up loving me because I ended up dating and then marrying her daughter.
That's right.
So my grades dramatically improved in that class.
Mine didn't.
No, mine. I put in the work, but because I couldn't do bad because I know she would probably be like, you just don't need to be dating that guy.
Yeah.
And that girl I started dating now is the mother to my children, and and I've been married almost 30 years. It's crazy to look back, but then there was another teacher. I think the only reason I showed up, and they were glad that I showed up, is because I would bring her a biscuit, or something. But it's still, I just didn't realize that I would be doing what we do.
No.
And at the end of the day, what you and I do are very similar. We help people,
Right.
and I think we find enjoyment out of that.
Exactly.
In a job well done.
Walking back and seeing what we've done.
There's
a lot of self drive there because it drives you to want to do the next step.
I would not. I love where I'm at. I love what I do. But if somebody said, "Hey, you want to start over?" and at 13, and you can go from there and live life ever how you want to, same route, different route, or whatever, I wouldn't want to redo that. I don't think, because it's just like you said, the 20-hour days.
That's
the
right.
Time. Like there's some things, those 20-hour days that I used to could just put in and not feel. Now I'm starting to feel.
That's right.
It's just like, my body feels it. If I drive, it's not uncommon for me to drive 4 to 5 hours for a 30-minute project and then get right back in the car and drive right back. You just could do it and it would not bother me at all. Now I'm much more stiff getting out of the car.
We do it. We do it too.
I know.
Man. We
yeah,
do it too.
You do it all the time.
And the crazy part about that is you make that drive, and it's almost like you get in the car and you're like, man, I'm dreading this drive. And you walk in and you're there 15 minutes, and when you walk out, it's like, man, I took care of that. That's right. It's done. You
Right.
feel good.
Oh yeah.
Where are we gonna eat?
Yeah. You're accomplished. Job well done, and because you don't know what you're walking into sometimes.
That's right.
They give you the service order, but
Right.
that's minimal compared to you just don't know
Right.
what you're walking into.
Well, and one of the funny things with that is, and it's happened with a local facility, you get a phone call, it's broke.
Yeah.
You get down there, and it's broke. They hit it with a forklift. They knock the whole table over. It's in the floor. It's in 17 pieces, and their
Right.
production is down. Yeah, it's broke.
Right. It's done.
So,
It's done.
but
It's called. We're going to put you a new one right here.
But you drove to Columbia
Yeah.
to and it's broke call,
Oh yeah.
and you're like, yeah, it's broke.
Same with me. We drove to. I drive Charleston a lot. I just jump in the car because similar. It's not
Right.
working. I get there and it's like, well, it's not plugged in.
We get that too.
But I'm okay with it because it's still an opportunity to see my face. I showed up.
That's right.
And then usually I find something else they need help with while I'm there. So we go ahead and kill two birds with one stone.
Right.
But Robbie, our hour has passed. I told you it'd go by super quick.
Yeah.
But I am proud of you. Definitely with your company. And like I said, I can't say this but for some reason, I don't know. But Palmetto Precision Engineering and Scales. Excited that you're going into the medical world. A lot of folks watching, I just wanted to make sure you're introduced and know that they can certainly reach out to you.
Yes, sir.
When this comes up, I'm going to make sure that we post how to get in touch with you.
Website.
Website, very important. But once you go ahead and tell the folks now, so they can just if it gets early, they still can go ahead and get a hold of you.
So ppeweighing.com, ppescales.com will take you to the website. If you hit that website, you can get a hold of us: email, phone, office phone, cell phone. We're not hard to find.
Right. Right.
But if you hit that website, you got everything right there.
Well, perfect. And for all my pharmacy and long-term care and my hospital folks and everything, that you guys scales are a huge part of, their industry and their life. You're the man. Contact you. Your company will service them in every level that needs to be serviced. I certainly will keep a lot of this information on me too, because I'll run across people saying, "Hey, Robbie, you had on there. How'd I get in touch with them?"
Yeah.
Here you go. Catalog. Here you go. Give them a call. But I'm sure, me and you'll talk more off the air always.
Absolutely.
And keep in touch. But, definitely this won't be the last time, because now I got the precision expert, for the show.
Right.
When something comes up, I'd love to get you and another good engineer friend, Trey Whitehurst, who's a great friend of the show, together, because sometimes we go off into rabbit holes about whole different subjects, and I'd like to get your thoughts on them. But once again, I appreciate you being at the show. Tice, thanks for coming with your dad. It's always good to support him. Guys, thank you for another episode of We Think We Talk. We appreciate you watching and being here. And until the next episode, God bless.